Good evening. I'm Anthony McCarthy.
And I am Casey Jenkins.
We are the hosts of Maryland Politics 101. Good evening. Welcome. We had a little weather issue last week, so we weren't on the air. A lot of things have happened since then, and I could not wait to get in this studio with my brother Casey Jenkins and talk some politics.
I tell you, there's a lot going on, brother.
It is.
There's a lot going on, but it's a lot of good things. And
the junior senator from California made it official on the Good Morning America.
On
This
King's
morning,
Holiday, that's right.
on King's Holiday, she announced she's running for president of the United States in 2020.
I'm excited.
Kamala Harris is a superstar.
She is.
She's a superstar in the Democratic Party, superstar in the United States Senate. Rumor is she's opening an office in the city of Baltimore. Very exciting, very exciting.
That is awesome. And I tell you, I think one of the things that we left out, she was also a prosecutor.
That's
right. She started off as a prosecutor in San Francisco, and she did a number of things there. But one of the things, I was listening to an interview that she did on NPR this morning, and it was really, really good, because one of the things that she did was she also admitted some of the things, some of her shortcomings while being a prosecutor in San Francisco, some things that she would have done differently. So I appreciate that human aspect of her, not saying that, hey, I'm great, I do this, but I have this human aspect, I've done these things, but I still want to move forward and be your president, and I think she can be.
Do you think America is ready for not just a woman, but a woman of color as president of the United States?
I do.
Wow.
I do. At this point, they were ready years ago for a woman.
I agree.
Now, as an African American woman, it doesn't get much better than Ms. Harris. It just doesn't get much better than that. She's articulate. And I hate when we have to say that.
But it's true. She is very visionary, articulate woman.
And she thinks outside of the box. So I think she's someone that we need. After 4 years of Trumpism, I mean, we're going to need something different. And I used to always tell people this. Was Bill Clinton a great president? Nah. You know, he followed 8 years of Reaganomics.
That's right.
So he looked like a superstar. So I think, Senator Harris is going to look awesome because she's following 4 years of Trumpism. So she's going to be awesome as our president. And I'm claiming that, because if she runs, she's definitely got my support.
Interesting for me is how she's going to balance being a prosecutor, law and order. A lot of people are already starting to attack her because when she was a prosecutor in San Francisco, would not go after the death penalty.
Yeah.
She refused. She said, it was something she did not believe in. When she was elected Attorney General of California, she still instituted the death penalty because she said it was the law of California.
Exactly.
And as the chief law enforcement officer of California, it was her duty to implement the death penalty.
It was the law of the land, and we understand it. But as an African-American woman or man, I can understand her apprehension about the death penalty, because you have a large amount of African Americans right now that are incarcerated and sitting on death row for crimes they didn't commit. Just think of it. The brother in, what was that, in Milwaukee, I think it was, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, that just got out of jail after 20 years, and he was exonerated after 20 years. So no, the death penalty is final. It's final. And there's only one person that I think deserves the death penalty at this point. And if he doesn't get the death penalty, then we are, Donald Trump is. I shouldn't say that. I'm only joking. That was horrible.
Joke.
Not against our POTUS.
That's right.
Doggone it. But
Elizabeth Warren's in the race already. Castro is in the race. He's a congressman. Former HUD secretary.
Yep.
His brother's a congressman. He is in the race. It looks like it's going to be a huge Democratic field.
I think Elizabeth Warren, she was the first one to declare.
She was.
Has one of my favorite quotes is an Elizabeth Warren quote. If you don't have a seat at the table, then you're probably on the menu. So Elizabeth Warren quote, but I think Elizabeth Warren is on the menu because, Trump's been going after her. I think she's going to be pretty beat up by the time primary time rolls around.
Trump can't stand her.
Elizabeth Warren's an interesting person, but I think her time is done. I think, listen, the reality of it is we're all waiting to see what Joe Biden's doing.
That's right.
And that's what everyone's waiting.
And he's going to make a decision by the end of February. He'll announce whether or not he's going to run. I think he's in.
I think he's in too. I think he's in. He's making the rounds right now.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And he, like he said earlier this week. Well, earlier last week. It really all depends on what his family does.
Wow.
So I think he's an awesome guy.
Is he beatable? Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Secretary Castro, the list goes on and on. Can any of them beat the former vice president?
One of the largest voting blocks in the United States are women.
Wow.
One of the largest voting blocks, in the United States is African American women. Mm-hmm. Is he beatable? With Kamala Harris? Yes. Yes, he is. Yes, he is, and it's going to be a great race. So, we're all gearing up for the primary.
I can't
wait. In another 6 months, we're gonna be grabbing the table like, did you hear what so and so said? My goodness. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think we're looking forward to the primary. I mean, what do you think? Now, one of the conversations that you and I had, offline was a contested Republican race.
Yeah.
All right, what's your thoughts on that? Do you think someone's going to step out and contest?
I do.
President.
And I think it's going to be the governor of the state of Maryland is going to be courted. He's going to be courted hard by Republicans across the country who believe that his 77% approval rating, his reelection in a blue state like Maryland, sets him up to be a very attractive national candidate. They need somebody that can take Trump on, who can beat Trump, who can then go on and beat the Democrat. It's going to be very, very hard for Larry Hogan not to run for president.
Well, let me say this. There are a couple of things. I think the last time we saw a contested race was like 1970 something. Somebody out there, Google that for me. I think it was during the Nixon administration was the last time we saw a contested race. I don't think it's going to be contested. No. I think that people are where they are. I don't know though, because you know what? With this whole government shutdown right now, Trump is vulnerable. Yeah. He's very vulnerable. Do I think that Larry Hogan will contest as a presidential candidate? No, I think he would make a better at this point vice president candidate. But I will say this: I hope he does. I'm selfish like that because if he does that, who becomes governor? Boyd Rutherford. Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford would be our very first African American governor of the state of Maryland. The liberal state of Maryland will have its very first African American governor. So, yes, I do hope that Larry.
And the Democrats have taken 2 swipes at the apple and haven't been able to do it. Maybe the Republicans can pull it off.
I don't know. I mean, I think we've seen the best. We've seen the best 4 years that we've seen in the last decade in the state of Maryland, and it's been under Republican government. The very first Republican governor to ever be reelected. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, second to ever be elected. So, it's going to be tight. Who's the first? McKeldin? Yeah, it was McKeldin.
And Hogan was sworn in on the same Bible that McKeldin was sworn in.
Wasn't that awesome?
Wasn't that awesome? Yeah, it was. It's for those of us who love history, those of us who love politics, very, very interesting. He got elected. Now it's time to govern. Let's make sure that you can govern.
Speaking of history, did McKeldin go on to run for VP?
He sure did. He became a United States senator.
He became a senator. Mm-hmm. I thought he went on to run for
I'm
VP.
Not sure.
Who was that from Maryland that ran for?
I think he was indicted. That guy.
Who was the? We're going to have to look that up. That's going to come on next week's show. We're going to start. You know what we're going to start doing? We're going to start putting a trivia question on this thing.
Spiro
Agnew. It was Spiro Agnew. That's exactly who it was. Excuse me, as Maryland Politics 101, I forgot Spiro Agnew.
That's right.
That's who it was that ran for VP. So, wow. Interesting.
So, but you know what? I've been reading a lot of stuff about the think tanks, a lot of conservative activists, a lot of moderate conservatives, a lot of moderate Republicans. They are excited about Larry Hogan. The rumor is he's about to become president or chairman of the Republican Governors Association. He'll have a national platform. He has a 77% approval rating in the blue state of Maryland. Which is
unheard of.
Unheard of. Even among Democrats, it's unheard of. And I talk to Democratic legislators every day. They cringe at how popular Larry Hogan is. It drives them crazy. And they're very hesitant to attack him. They're very hesitant to be critical of him. But I'm telling you, the higher his profile becomes nationally, the more you will begin to see Democrats take licks at Larry Hogan.
So I was trolling around Facebook, and
He's very honest.
Yeah, a good friend of mine. And I refuse to post Adam Jackson. Adam is an awesome guy.
He's one of the smartest men I know.
Yeah, leaders of the beautiful struggle. So he posted this picture on his Facebook page of Hogan's administration and his cabinet, and there was no African. I think there were 2 African Americans on the picture, and I looked all over the internet for our previous governor's cabinet and his pictures just to see, were we along the same lines? And I couldn't find anything. But you were a good friend of Governor O'Malley's. So did he have any African Americans?
I would not call us good friends.
Well, we weren't good friends, but
I will say he did have African Americans in his cabinet. There were several.
Can you name any?
Not off the top of my head. Right. Next week I'll have it for you.
All right, great.
And I'll get that picture for you.
All right.
Because I think I did see that picture one time. But there were a lot of women in the O'Malley administration. There were a lot of people of color.
O'Malley liked women.
Oh, he was a very strong supporter of Democratic women, and so but it could be one of the things that people could go after Hogan for. The lack of diversity. He just appointed a new natural resources secretary. Was a woman who's former. I think she was a deputy chief of staff or deputy press secretary.
And a new secretary of commerce.
And the new secretary of commerce is a woman who used to be at
Labor and Licensing, I think.
That's right.
Yep.
And she's an incredible leader.
Yeah, she is.
When I worked for Catherine Pugh, she came to City Hall several times for meetings with Mayor Pugh. And I'm telling you, the woman is sharp as a knife. Yeah. She's real good.
She changed that entire department around. As a matter of fact, I could, if we did see someone run for governor, I could probably see her as being lieutenant governor.
So
she's
a
really
lot
strong.
of people are going to raise that big diversity flag and asking, is Hogan doing enough to make his cabinet look like the state of Maryland?
That's a tough.
Including Democrats. Are there Democrats in that administration?
I'll tell you this, and being a Hogan supporter and being a fan of
one of the best Hogan supporters.
Being a Hogan supporter and Rutherford supporter, would I like to see more diversity in his cabinet? Yes, I would. He has a lot of his political analysts, his political. I'm not sure exactly what they're like. Kiefer Mitchell.
Yeah,
Kiefer Mitchell is part of his team.
Very good point.
And Kiefer has been extremely instrumental on a lot of the policies and procedures that he's implemented.
Especially education.
He has.
He started as an education advisor. Now he advises Hogan
on everything.
A lot of issues. Yeah.
So and when you look at it from that perspective, and then when you look at it from our lieutenant governor, his running mate is African American, and I know a lot of the people that were in our lieutenant governor's cabinet also. So we used to have Richard Tabuteau in there.
That's right.
And now Richard Tabuteau's a lobbyist, and he was a Democrat. So there were a lot of Democrats that were supporting Governor Hogan and giving him a lot of advice, and there were some African Americans working behind the scenes. So why there aren't any in leadership roles, I'm not sure right now, but I'm still happy from what I see. And the Governor Hogan appointed me to the Maryland State Board of Tourism. I think it's been 3 years now, and
smart move.
And it was interesting because there weren't any African Americans at that time. Now we have 3 African Americans on the board. Out of a board of 25, there's 3 of us, and there's a number of women, and there's some Latinos on the board. So, does he believe in diversity? Yes, and it's one of the things that we strive for from a tourism standpoint in dealing with the state. So, yes, I believe that he does believe in diversity.
It's going to be one of those issues. Besides diversity, he's talked a lot. Larry Hogan has talked a lot about education funding, and that he, at historic levels, education dollars coming to the city of Baltimore, education dollars going across the state of Maryland. He's talked about crime and supporting Mayor Pugh and supporting the crime issues in the city of Baltimore. A lot of Democrats I talk to say, wait a minute, why is it that he takes Democratic issues, puts them under his belt, calls them his ideas, and we all sit here and applaud him? Let's say you're stealing Democratic ideas.
But listen, he's not stealing Democratic ideas in a lot of instances. So crime, when he got on TV last week, and he said, when he had his press conference last week, he said enough is enough when it comes to crime. And so he he's appointed 200 law enforcement people and has given them to the city of Baltimore to help curb crime, because you're talking about one of the largest city in the state of Maryland, but crime is at a national is at a fever pitch here. So he did the right thing, and if you notice, even when we had the lieutenant governor on here 2 weeks ago, that was not a swipe.
That's right.
At our at our mayor.
He sure did.
It was, hey, you guys need help. It is my job as the governor of this state to be able to provide that help, and he's done a good job in doing that.
I was very impressed, and you're not going to hear me say this as often, but I was very impressed when the lieutenant governor was on with us 2 weeks ago. He said, we have some very important announcements on opioids. And sure enough, that exact same week, they really came out strong funding and a priority for the health department, really going after resources for treatment, rehab. I'm telling you, if other states are smart, they will watch what this governor and lieutenant governor are doing when it comes to opioids, because it's affecting families across the board. Black, white, brown, green, all these families being affected by addiction to opioids in our society.
They think outside the box. They really do. So I remember when, and I'll never forget this day. So I'm sitting at my desk. And I get a call from the lieutenant governor, and he says, "Hey, there's an article in the Washington Post that you should take a look at." And he emailed it to me, and it was about what Detroit was doing after they got put in receivership, and how they were giving these houses away, literally giving these foreclosed houses away to people if you met a certain criteria, like you had to make over $30,000, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this. And he says, what do you think if we did something like this to assist the city of Baltimore? And what ended up coming out from that was the CORE project, and where they said, well, listen, we'll take these properties over from you guys, we'll demo the properties, we'll cut a third of your cost out, and that way you can revitalize these areas. So I went over to the old, what is it? That's the off Key Highway, the old Bolton Hill, the older part of Bolton Hill, not Bolton Hill. What's it called? Help me out there,
Fed
guys. Not Fed Hill. Yeah, Federal Hill. Sorry, the old part of Federal Hill. And like you're going toward. Oh God! See, I'm all over the place. I'm sorry, folks. I'm all over the place today. But yes, the old Fed Hill over by Key Highway. And the growth that's going on in that area is insane. And what we need the remainder of the city to do is catch up with that. And I think the governor's doing a good job in trying to help us do that with the CORE project.
I think that this mayor, this governor, really have focused in on areas that traditionally have just been ignored. If you go up in Park Heights right now, and you go along that Park Heights Reisterstown Road, you will begin to see a whole lot of demolition of abandoned, falling down properties are gone. And what you're going to see take their place, what I hope will be moderately income priced housing for middle class families, so that neighborhood, so Park Heights, can really start to see a rebirth. And once you see Park Heights start to change, you'll see the city of Baltimore change.
Well, Mayor Pugh is smart, and I give her a lot of credit. I beat her up every
now and again. She's been surrounded by some very smart people.
Yeah, she has been. One or two, right?
One or two.
So I'll tell you this: I beat up our mayors. I hold their feet to the fire.
That's all right.
And out of all of them, I have to say that I think Catherine Pugh, Mayor Pugh, has done an incredible job in earmarking certain areas in the city that need help. We can't afford to lose the Preakness.
No, we can't.
We can't. So it only makes sense that Park Heights gets the attention that it needs, because if we don't, we're going to lose the Preakness, and that's a major stream of revenue for the city.
Generator.
And so she's smart. So when you think about the growth that's going on in Park Heights, when you think about looking at other avenues for stream of revenue like the CIAA, she's doing a phenomenal job in being able to do that. I won't mention the other mayor that got us a Grand Prix, but we've got a CIAA.
Oh, your hearts.
Oh, my goodness.
Folks, if you're listening and you'd like to join our conversation, I want to give you a phone number, 443-500-6706. 443-500-6706 is the number if you want to talk about Trump, you want to talk about Hogan, you want to talk about Mayor Pugh, you want to talk about the city of Baltimore, crime, the Maryland legislative session. We can talk. Casey and I can cover it all.
My goodness, we haven't even got to the session yet.
That's right.
Oh my goodness, we haven't even got to the session. So listen, we have a couple of people online. My good friend Pat Jackson. I actually grew up with Pat, and she lives down here in Maryland now. She said, "I wish they'd give me a house. Where's my 40 acres and a mule?" Pat, you don't even live in Baltimore City. But if you move to Baltimore City, we've got a house somewhere here for you. I'm not saying that Anthony or I will pay for it, nor am I saying the governor or mayor will, but there's definitely a house. So we want people to come back to Baltimore City. It's an incredible, incredible city, and I love it to death.
Maryland legislative session. We can talk.
Oh, I am not supposed to do that.
There you go. So the other thing that I want us to talk about before we move move past Larry Hogan is this idea that his inauguration took place.
Yes.
A lot of people were taken a little bit aback. Jeb Bush was here, the former governor of Florida. Who a lot of folks, I didn't realize this, aren't big fans of Jeb Bush. They say that he gave us the stand your ground laws in Florida, which has killed a lot of black folks. They say that he has done away with a lot of preferential treatment when it comes to minorities and college education, which has cut the college rate for blacks in Florida by 11 to 12%. A lot of people said, I'm not sure if Larry Hogan needs to be attaching himself to Jeb Bush, but Jeb Bush was here. He and brought a lot of Republican stars to the inauguration.
Michael Steele was there, and Michael Steele, somebody that you can attach yourself to.
Every mayor, former mayor of the city of Baltimore was at that inauguration.
Was at the inauguration, yeah.
I saw the pictures.
So
I wasn't there.
And I will say this, that Governor Hogan, the first thing that everyone was doing was attacking, saying, "Well, why is the governor, having $1,000 fund, $1,000 tickets for?"
People are saying that's not very common, man.
Well, the reality of it is that they were doing it at the MGM, and the MGM was charging them, and you had to pay for it. And the $1,000, the $1,000 donors were essentially
and
the ones
there were plenty of them.
Yes, there were a few of us. But the $1,000 donors actually paid for the tickets for the $150 people for the general admission. So essentially, that helped cover a lot of the cost, because the MGM it's a for-profit company. It's expensive. So I understand what the governor was doing, and listen, he did something that was insurmountable. He became the second Republican governor to ever be elected twice in the state of Maryland.
What did you think of his speech?
Have a party.
What did you think of his speech? He called for bipartisanship. He was critical of Trump and what was going on in Washington.
It was everything. It was everything I expected, and it was also everything that he initially did. Everyone tried to partner him with President Trump, and he came out and said, "I do not support those views," and he's done it all through the campaign. But everyone tried to partner him with Trump, and he did a great job in saying that this is not what I do. This is not my family. This is not what my family looks like. These are the things that we want to focus on as Marylanders, and he's proven that he can be bipartisan. He's we have, what is it? I think 90-something% Democrats in this state. And he's found a way to work with every one of them.
He really has.
I think he's doing an awesome job, and I can't wait to see what the next 4 years holds.
So he was reelected. He's now been sworn in, and now the work begins.
Now the real work begins. So what are some of the things that you'd like to see from this administration moving forward?
We talked about it just a little bit with the Lieutenant Governor 2 weeks ago. I'd love to see them focus on transportation. I think people in the city of Baltimore need the transportation, buses, our rail, to really become upgraded and get people to work. A lot of new businesses are opening out in the suburbs, a lot of factories opening out in the suburbs, and we need to send those people out to work. And we need to be able to, for them to be able to get on the bus, we need them to get on those trains and get out to those jobs. And I think that the administration needs to focus on that. I think that the city of Baltimore, our CEO of our public school system says that the state owes them a lot of money. And I think that the city could use those dollars. The city school system is in such dire straits that we really have to find a way. There has been traditionally a lot of underfunding for the city of Baltimore. I think that if the governor and the legislature could partner to make sure that Baltimore remains a priority when it comes to education dollars, that will be key. And I think the children of the city of Baltimore need that kind of commitment. And I also believe that it would be Hogan and Boyd Rutherford for any kind of future political I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but I think it will be a key for him to really stay focused on partnering with the mayor of the city of Baltimore to curb crime. And I think that he's on the right track. I think helping supplement with law enforcement officers in the city of Baltimore. We don't have enough officers on the streets, and we need to be able to get more officers on the streets. People need to feel safe. The truth of the matter is homicides are down in the city of Baltimore. Murders are down. There's a lot of shootings going on, but we have great doctors and great hospitals, and people are surviving. But we've got to get these guns off of our streets. We've got to get these shootings down in our city. So that, education, transportation, and crime, I think, are key. And if Hogan can partner with the great Democrats of the legislature and really push those issues through, we'll be able to get some stuff done.
Well, it's all going to start with the Baltimore delegation, too, because
question.
One of the things that the Baltimore delegation needs to get right, in speaking about education, is, and I distinctly remember this conversation, and correct me if I'm wrong, like I know you will. So
you're hardly ever wrong.
Maggie McIntosh.
Oh yeah.
Initially, they were the ones that initially came up with the formula that we're currently working off of for the school system. So to say that they're underfunded, I think is inaccurate. But also we have to realize that Baltimore City has something that a lot of the other surrounding counties doesn't have. We have a lot more special needs children. So, and that was something that wasn't taken into account. But with the current formula that needs to change in this legislation, in this legislature, in this session, is that we have to look at the formula because it didn't take into account Baltimore City growth. Right. That was the first thing. The second thing that it didn't take into account was that there was going to be a rise in the medium income of living. Right. So once those two things are worked out in the formula, I think that we're going to see more money coming toward the city. But a lot of people are going to disagree, and I'm surprised that the phones aren't going to light up after what I'm about to say. But a lot of the things that went on with the Baltimore City school system were the Baltimore City delegation's problem, and they did not take into account a lot of the growth that Baltimore City was seeing.
You're 100% right.
So once we work that out, I think that we're going to be on the right path. Now, does Governor Hogan need to do the right thing? And just because the funding stream, because of the formula, looks a certain way, does it mean that he can't give more? No, I think he should give more.
And I think it's key that when the Kirwan Commission finally comes through, that formula, a lot of assumptions were made, and you're 100% right, Casey. A lot of people didn't realize the median income in the city was going up. A lot of people did not realize that school population would increase. But the problem is so many children with needs are part of this school system that the dollars have got to increase. We've got to be able to supplement those special resources and those special education. And I tell you what, I'm going to be critical of this school commission. We need some strong leaders on that school board. We need some visionaries on that school board who look at their children and their children that they are serving and say, you're my priority, and this is what we're going to do. And A, B, C, D, whether Governor Hogan or the legislature partner with them or not, those people are visionary fighting for these kids. And I just don't see that. I'm a big fan of Sandalisis. I was a little upset with her when she shut down or wanted to shut down the all-boys school, the Benjamin Banneker.
That's performing incredibly.
I was very disappointed, but I am a huge fan of Sandelisa's. But we've got to really look and focus like a laser beam on the children of the city of Baltimore.
I agree. There's so much that we could talk about, pertaining to education, pertaining to, Baltimore City schools. But I can say this, that when looking at the Baltimore City school system, I'm sorry, I think the governor did an outstanding job in standing his ground when it came to saying, all right, guys, we're not spending any more money in this. When you're looking at it from a perspective of a hole in the bottom of the bucket, there's a lot of things that were going on in City Hall. There was pilfering going on. There was
I wouldn't dare say at City Hall. It was going. It certainly was.
No,
going
I didn't
on
mean. I'm sorry.
within the
I didn't
school
mean
system.
Board of Education is what I meant. I didn't mean City Hall. I do apologize. I misspoke. So
I
at the
get
Board of Ed,
defensive.
no, you do. Oh, Anthony, stop. But at the Board of Ed, there was a lot going on down there, and someone needed to stop up the hole at the bottom of the bucket so that the water could fill up. So I get where they were going with this. Now, think about this. Now, before Dr. Sandelise, what was the gentleman's name that was there before? I forget his name.
Andreas.
Something or that name. But I remember when the governor first took over, one of the first things he did, he said, listen, no, you guys aren't getting this money. You have to find a way to cut this. And all of a sudden, miraculously, they found all of this money. We're talking millions of dollars were found because there were people that were on medical people's.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it was just a lot of things going on. So I don't want to go into the whole thing, but they found money. So we need to manage this better.
We do,
and that's where the problem is.
And I think that with Maggie McIntosh, with Antonio Hayes, with Corey McCray, we have a real opportunity. And then we have Nick Mosby in the legislature. We have a bunch of other folks in the legislature.
You had to go there, didn't you?
A lot of folks in the legislature where we really have a chance to make a difference. But we've got to hold them accountable. And I really do believe we've got to hold these people accountable. So before your hands are out reaching for more dollars, can you manage the dollars that you already have in your pocketbook? And that's what I'm going to say to them. I want you to be able to manage the dollars that we've been giving you because I'm going to hold you to a higher standard when the other dollars come in.
You can't go to Giant on Thanksgiving weekend and say, hey, I've only got $100, but I need $200 in food.
That's right.
Now, so word on the street, speaking of Sir Mosby, word on the street is that he might be running for mayor again. Any word? Anything on the street?
I haven't heard that.
All right, well, that's what I heard. I wouldn't have, you know what?
He can't raise the dollars to be competitive against Catherine Pugh.
The Mosbys, not many people are going to be able to raise that kind of money that Catherine has.
That's right.
But someone's going to have to outmaneuver her.
Oh,
and I'm waiting to see who that person's going to have, who that person's going to be.
They're going to have to be smart. If you take on Catherine Pugh for mayor, you better be very smart. And you better find a way to message to the citizens of Baltimore, whether it's on crime, whether it's on education, whether it's on development. You better be able to out-talk her because she's going to talk.
You know who I'd love to see run again, who I thought would have been an awesome mayor, and now that he's got some experience under his belt? Joshua Harris. That is the first time I've seen that look.
I serve on a board with Joshua Harris. I have an immense amount of respect for him. He could not get elected against Catherine Pugh. She would wipe the floor with him.
Listen, like I said, I think Joshua would make a great mayor.
He'd be a great mayor.
But would he? It's rolling a rock up a hill running against Catherine, and we know that.
And that's true.
And we know that she's very methodical in how she does things.
You actually made me speechless for a moment.
You didn't think I was going to say Joshua Harris, did I?
A million names. I never thought Joshua Harris.
You thought Zeke Cohen was coming, though.
I did think you were going to say Zeke Cohen. And I was going to say, not likely. He may run for city council president. Right. I know a lot of people are talking to him about running for mayor. Can he raise the dollars? He can be competitive. I don't think he can raise... I don't think anybody can raise the same money that Catherine Pugh.
Let's look at it from this standpoint. I told Corey McCray this about 3 years ago, that it's not always about money. Now, let's think about that. Let's think about Larry Hogan took state funds when he ran the first time.
He sure did. Very true.
Anthony Brown outraised him. What was it, like 5-1?
But Larry Hogan didn't have to take state funds this time.
No, he didn't.
And raised more money than God.
Yeah.
Had so much money that he was on the air every 2 minutes. I got sick of seeing those damn Hogan commercials.
Yeah.
They were everywhere.
Yeah.
But he had the money to do it.
Yeah,
he had the money to do it.
He did. People believed in him. You know.
And I disagree with you a little bit. It is about money. It really is about that money because you've got to activate voters. You got to energize voters and get them out to the polls. You've got to be able to tell your story. Catherine Pugh, for all of the issues around crime and some of the other issues around the environmental stuff and the dirty city, she's going to be able to tell a compelling story.
We've never elected a mayor that the two hot buttons are crime and education. The two hot buttons are crime and education in the city of Baltimore. We've never elected a mayor since I've been here the last 21 years that has had both of those being problematic. So now crime's out of control.
We've always reelected mayors, except for Stephanie Rollins Blake, who did not run for reelection. Her numbers really let her know, don't run for re-election.
Well,
after Freddie Gray.
Yeah, after Freddie Gray, she couldn't have run. She couldn't have run.
But I think that, and I'm biased, admittedly biased. I think Catherine Pugh has been an extraordinary mayor. I think she's an extraordinary leader. She's going to have trouble. She's going to have some trouble. Can someone capitalize on that trouble?
What about Sheila?
I don't think.
What about Sheila? What about Sheila?
I think Sheila Dixon could be very competitive. Can she raise the dollars? And again, you don't think it's about money. I think it is about money. I'm not sure if Sheila Dixon can raise the kind of money that will make her competitive against Catherine Pugh.
The one thing that Sheila Dixon can do is she can excite a base.
She can
excite the
base.
And
people love her.
People love her.
People who love Sheila Dixon love her.
She's a Baltimorean.
They will go to the mat for her.
And you know what? She's a Baltimorean. She's a former school teacher, former council president, former mayor. I think there are people in the city that are watching this program right now, and one of them is actually sitting on this panel that says, "Man, did I make the right decision in voting for Catherine this time?" Because I did fundraisers for literally 5 of the last 12.
You sure did.
and I did fundraisers for them, and I did a fundraiser for Sheila, and I did a fundraiser for Catherine, and sometimes I do question if I made the right decision.
Well, I think you did make the right decision, and I also believe that if Sheila Dixon gets in the race, she will be competitive. And the question is whether or not she can raise enough money. I think she'll raise enough money to be competitive. She won't be able to match dollar for dollar Catherine Pugh because the developers will line up, the activists will line up, the unions will line up. Even though Catherine Pugh did not support $15, I think the unions will line up behind her because she's the incumbent mayor. I think that she is going to have extraordinary financial resources at her disposal. Sheila Dixon will be able to be competitive and will give Catherine Pugh, if she runs, she'll give her a run for her money. I'm not sure if she can.
But that scares me. Well, everything you just mentioned is right, but it scares me. Do I really want to support?
I don't want to scare you.
No. We're going to say we're scaring our people out there because do you really want to get behind a mayor that has the developers behind her? Do you really want to get behind a mayor?
Every mayor has had developers behind them.
Every mayor. Now let's talk about
from Martin O'Malley to Kurt Schmoke to Stephanie Rollins Blake to Sheila Dixon have always had developers.
So let's talk about the two single largest TIFs in Maryland state history came under a mayor that couldn't have gotten reelected even if Freddie Gray didn't happen.
I agree.
So the two largest developers in the city got behind her, but we still couldn't get her over the hump. What are you talking about? Michael Beatty and Warhorse, which is your plank. They got behind her.
The jobs that are being created for both those projects will push anybody to be very, very supportive.
Port Covington's been stalled because Warhorse can't raise the remainder of the money. So, in other words, that's our taxpayer money that's right now that's sitting idle.
Sitting idle, waiting for them to do their part. But you can't be critical of the mayor. You can't be critical of the city council because they did their part.
This thing should have been lined up differently from the door.
I agree. But that's the developer's problem. and that's the developer's fault.
No, that's our problem. It's their fault, but it's our problem because that's taxpayers' money.
I agree.
So, but
we're gonna see.
Yeah, we're gonna see. Because I can say this: Port Covington, it still looks good without the money that they put into it. It's beautiful over there.
It's beautiful. And I went over there a few weeks ago and was given an incredible tour, and my mouth was hanging open. If people knew what was going on over there, I think that citizens would be very impressed. And that's why I said the number of jobs that are going to be created, it's going to be off the hook. People are going to go to work because of Port Covington.
My broker will probably tell me not to say this, but I am putting this out there because I only know that.
Oh, I'm excited. I can't wait to hear this.
So, Jamie, if you are watching, I actually went and looked at a building over there for a new restaurant. And it's a gorgeous building for a new restaurant over in that area. So, I mean, there's a lot of growth. There's a lot of movement going on in that area. So,
please
I want to be a part of it.
Darker than blue back.
It's coming. It's coming.
Bring us darker than blue back. It was, without question, an unparalleled eatery in the city of Baltimore. It was over there on Greenmount, but every time I bought people there, every time I went there, we would end up leaving, rubbing our stomachs because the food was not only good, but the atmosphere was incredible.
Yeah.
That was a killer Baltimore restaurant.
Yeah, it's funny, not to get too far off track, but I would walk in the dining room on a Friday night and you would see, and this is how
I know exactly what you're going to say.
This is how I would see table 1, Senator McFadden.
Yes.
Table 2. This is when Stephanie liked me. I would see Stephanie there. I would see everyone standing around. I'd see just every politician in the city.
Used to talk about
Carl
that
Stokes
place
was in there all the time. Loved him.
So many people I knew, when I'd say, "Oh, let's have dinner," they'd say, "Let's go to Darker Than Blue."
Yep.
And a lot of that had to do with you. And now it has something to do with that great food too. But you created an atmosphere there that was amazing.
It was interesting because keeping it with business and politics right now, the one thing that I would do is everyone used to call me the angry political chef.
Ooh, you were angry, brother. You were angry.
I was definitely no soup for you. And it didn't help putting the mayor's mother out one time either.
It did.
Yeah, you heard about that,
heard
right?
about that.
That's probably why Stephanie really didn't like me. Those were some great days, but keeping it on politics, those were some great days. But one of the things, and I like to make sure that I tell a lot of small business owners that are out there, know who your politicians are, know who your local legislators are, know who your local council people are, because those are the ones that are going to help you move forward. But you know what? Today is King's holiday.
It is. Before we move to King's, I do want to. There is a restaurant here in the city of Baltimore called Nancy's. Kevin Brown.
Yeah, Kevin.
It is a lot like Darker Than Blue, because whenever I go to Nancy's, at table 1 could be the mayor. At table 2 could be the Senate Majority Leader. At table 3 could be some of the biggest political consultants in the state of Maryland. All of them in that restaurant.
Downtown Kevin Brown.
Downtown Kevin Brown. And he makes sure that they feel like while they're there, they are the most important people in that restaurant.
Yeah.
And he makes everybody. Marsha Jews is always there. Catalina Bird is always there. Wanda Watts is always there. I mean, Shalonda Stokes is always there. The list goes on and on. If you want a good meal, and he's not paying me, they're not advertisers, but if you want a good meal and you want a good atmosphere, Nancy's on North Avenue.
Yep. Well, you know what? I want to tell you something. Not to get too far apart. Kevin used to work for, was it the state government?
State government.
And Kevin,
city government.
He
worked for housing.
Kevin actually has done a phenomenal job in helping the growth in that area, in that arts district. So he started off with his very first restaurant, which was
the Station Arts
North
Arts,
something of that
Cafe.
nature. And great place. Only did sandwiches, soups, and stuff of that nature, but great place. And I'm glad to see that he grew to a second restaurant. And he does a phenomenal job. And he is very politically active.
He knows the right places to be, the right places to be seen, and the right places to offer his free, you know what? You need a tray for your event? Here you go. This is from Nancy's. He makes sure to connect.
He is so,
Downtown
opposite
Kevin Brown.
Downtown Kevin Brown. He was so opposite Casey. He's
now,
great,
when I
though.
was the editor-in-chief of the Afro-American newspaper, he was our entertainment reporter.
Was he
I
really?
can tell you, he was my superstar. He was my superstar. He would make sure that the Afro covered every important event in the city of Baltimore. Boy, he was a great reporter.
Yeah, and he's an all-around great guy. I know he's done a couple of fundraisers for this current administration.
That's right.
For Governor Hogan and for Lieutenant Governor
He
Rutherford. So
likes Boyd a lot.
he does like Boyd. Who doesn't like Boyd? He's going to be our next governor. He's going to be our next governor. Everyone,
you heard it here.
Yeah, this is where you heard it first. Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford will be our next governor in the state of Maryland. So, but like I said, I want to talk a little bit about what this particular day means to everyone.
Is that the next show?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So today we're celebrating MLK Day. It's not Dr. King's birthday, everyone. Dr. King's birthday is January 15th. So please, I cringe. I cringe when I read online that people are wishing him a happy birthday.
I agree.
Because it kind of takes us away from, actually what this day should mean to people. It's not his birthday, but it's about the core values that he believed in, and it's about the core values that he wanted us all to believe in to move us forward. So as I was driving over here today, one of the things, speaking about politics in relations to Dr. King, one of the things that really incenses me is, one, when people don't go out and vote but they complain.
I agree.
The second thing that really is an even bigger travesty, because being a Christian, one of the things that I understand is, the greatest sinner is the one that knows but does other. So what I'm saying is, it drives me crazy when I see all of these people that have on these "I voted today" patches, but when you ask those people, who they voted for, you have half of the people. There's one person that comes to mind, and I won't mention any names, but when I asked this person, hey, who's your delegates for your district, they couldn't name them. But you have on this patch that says "I voted today." Who did you vote for and why? Those are some of the values that Dr. King was incarcerated for.
That's right.
Those are some of the things he marched for. Those are some of the things he gave his life for, just so that we could have the opportunity to vote. And we squander this. We squander it for social media and stickers, and it's deplorable. Get out, vote, know who your representatives are. Don't get me wrong. Donald Trump he's a jerk. There's really no other way to put it.
He went to the King Memorial today. He went to the King, the site of the King Memorial
in Atlanta.
No,
or in DC. In DC.
In DC.
Yeah. So and it's easy. It's interesting that someone like that, that has so much vitriol in what he does, could go to that memorial and stand there in good faith. When I look at someone like our current POTUS, I try to stop mentioning his name, but our current POTUS cares nothing about us, and he doesn't have as much control over our daily lives as some of our local politicians. So why don't we learn who they are?
That's right.
And those are some of the
thing I like about you, though, Casey, is that you're not going to be unnecessarily anymore disrespectful,
exactly,
even to the POTUS.
He did say anymore.
But that you really do call us to be accountable. Dr. King really did give his life so that the freedoms that we all take for granted,
that's right,
aren't really meant to be taken for granted. That we're supposed to show up to vote. We're supposed to know who we're voting for. We're supposed to know why we're voting for them. He gave his life so that could be a reality.
Exactly.
And so I know who my 3 delegates are. I know who my state senator is. I know who my congressman is. I know who I'm going to, whose support for governor or lieutenant governor and all those things. I make sure that I know who I'm casting votes for, and they know who I'm voting for. If I voted for you for delegate, I voted for you. If you are now my state senator, Corey McRae, I supported you. And so it's key that we celebrate the ideals that Dr. King really called our country to account for. It's key. It really is key.
And I will say this, and hopefully someone doesn't call me up on this right now. You do know what his party affiliate was, right? Dr. King?
I do know.
You do know? Do you want to say it?
No.
Well, I will say it. Our producer, our illustrious producer, do you know what Dr. King's party affiliation was? He was a Republican.
He was a Republican. And his father was a Republican. Yeah. His grandfather was a Republican. And it really a very different Republican
It was
party.
different Republican. It was a different Republican party then. I agree. Oh, so we have a caller online.
Excellent.
Caller?
How you doing? This is Paul Franklin, Casey, and Anthony. How y'all doing?
Paul, you get the clap from both of us.
That's
Paul
right.
Franklin, how you doing?
greatest.
I haven't seen this brother in two whatever it's
been a
called.
long
It's
time.
been a while. And how you doing, Paul? What's going on? Talk to us.
Hey, what I want to talk about today is about how do we develop candidates that we can hold accountable.
Yeah.
We have to get together and develop think tanks that has a common agenda for all of us so that we can then push those same agendas onto our candidates and make sure that we hold them accountable to that. What we're not doing is the groundwork in the first place to create the candidates that are going to give us exactly what we need. We're just blindly giving our votes out to somebody who tells us their name. Do you guys agree or disagree?
I
100%.
I agree 200%. One of the things that we need to do is, and these are conversations, Paul, I think you and I have had and other people have had before, speaking about that none of our former and some still current politicians have groomed people for success. So when I look at, and I'm going to throw some names out there, when I look at someone like a Talmadge Branch, when I look at someone like, who is a friend of mine, not Talmadge, but when I look at somebody like Senator McFadden, these people weren't grooming people for success. They weren't looking at who the next guy was going to be. Now, I did see Senator McFadden, going back to Darker Than Blue, Senator McFadden had a meeting with Cory McCray when Cory McCray ran for State Central Committee the first time. Now look at where Cory is. But a lot of the politicians, the elected officials that we have in the city of Baltimore, they're so busy trying to get reelected, and they forget that why they got there in the first place. So I'm a firm advocate, first and foremost, for term limits.
I agree.
I'm a big advocate for term limits because guess what? You're not doing what you're supposed to do in grooming your next generation and coming up. So we got to get you out of there. And so put some term limits on there until you can start doing right to us.
And I like what Paul said about think tanks. I think that if we could develop the issues that are important to our districts, that are important to our city, then we can hold them accountable.
Yeah.
Because there's a record. And they go to Annapolis and they vote, and if they vote against the interests of their district or the city, then we get rid of them. But you got to be able to educate yourself, and you got to be able to hold them accountable.
I totally agree. What do you think about that, Paul?
Well, again, we have to have those kind of mechanisms in place so that when we get someone who we feel is a good candidate, we hand them our agenda. And then we track them over the 4 years or 2 years that they're in office, or if it's considered the 6 years that's in office. And we say yay or nay. Did you meet our standards? Did you put our agenda forward? And if they have not, then it's time for you to move over and we put the next person in. It's actually a real simple way to do it. I really struggle with why we don't do that in the first place.
Paul, what district do you live in?
I live in 41.
Is there anybody that you'd like to see? Is there anybody that you'd like to see over here or on the show that we can get so they could possibly answer some of those questions for you?
Yeah, absolutely. We have 2 new delegates in 41.
You sure
and
do.
Both of the 2 new delegates, I think, are young and have energy.
I agree.
That
I think you have
Stephanie
Smith and who's
she's in the 45th.
No, she's 45th. Who do you have? Who's the 2 new delegates in the 41st?
We got Dahlia.
All right.
And my poly brother.
Tony Bridges.
Tony.
Tony Bridges. All
Yeah,
right.
Tony Bridges. And again, I like the way they ran their campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I like the new youth and energy that they brought, because every time in 41, when I would see Sandy would tote his record. But I look at the decline of 41 and go, how are you going to tote your record? And you've been my delegate the whole time, and nothing but decline has happened in my district.
Yeah.
So I think that is reason enough for a change. And I'm happy that Tony and Dahlia are there to try to move to that change again. But I'll say that neither one of them have been handed an agenda to help us make that change. And we have to develop that, and that's what we ought to be doing.
So what would be some of the things on your agenda?
Very first thing on my agenda is making sure every kid in Baltimore City is reading on grade level by the third grade.
Yeah.
Something real simple. It's concrete and it's measurable. Either they're reading on grade level by third grade or they're not. And if they're not, what are we going to do to get them there and make sure that it happens? That's real simple.
Well, you know what, Paul? You know what? We're definitely gonna have to continue this conversation next week. I want you to call back in next
Paul,
week.
we'd love to have you on the show.
Yeah, and we'd love to have you on here. And Paul is an awesome.
He really is.
He's an awesome videographer himself. Did I say that right? Videographer?
That's it.
Is that right, Paul? Paul, tell everybody the name of your business.
Name of my business is PFS Graphics. You can see my work on icycolorlive.tv, which is a web-based program sort of like your podcast. And we do 100% original broadcasting.
Yep. Well, Paul, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for calling in, and we've got to stay in contact, brother. As a matter of fact, hey, listen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to you in the next week or so and see what we can do about getting you on the show. How's that sound?
I appreciate that, brother. You guys take care.
Love you,
Take care.
Paul.
Thanks,
Take care,
Paul.
brother. I think Paul makes some great points, and he
He's
always
smart as
does.
hell.
Yeah,
he is one of those people that really does. He challenges conventional wisdom. He challenges what people think are the basics, and really thinks out of the box, and it's important.
I'm going to tell you something. So I'll tell you how well I know Paul. One, he did a video for Birdland, and two, his daughter worked for me briefly over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Paul's a really good guy. We've got another caller on the line. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
Hi, my name is Calvin. I'm calling from Baltimore.
Hey, Cal.
Calvin, hey, how are you?
Wonderful. How you doing? I appreciate this show you guys are doing. It's so
Thank
much to
you,
talk
brother.
about going in Baltimore.
It's Calvin
City.
Watkins?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I recognize the voice. How you doing, Calvin?
Wonderful. Another videographer. On the
Another
side.
videographer.
A great video.
Baltimore Food Network.
That's
Baltimore
right.
Food Network. Yeah, Baltimore Food Network.
Absolutely. No, that was the. Yes, I'm sorry.
Was that?
So,
oh, I thought it was wrong.
No, I'm thinking about Black Restaurants.
Oh, Black
Yeah.
Restaurant Challenge videographer
that too.
also.
Right,
So,
right.
So what's on your mind?
What's on your mind?
Yeah, you made a good point about a mayor that is putting crime and education first. I look at, my thing is charter schools. We look over
Yes.
for charter school. And one of the challenges is with Baltimore City Public Schools, they haven't approved a charter school in 6 years. So you have all these organizations like mine, like a few more organizations putting together these awesome plans, this awesome, some really incredible ideas to do something new in Baltimore City with education. But we run into roadblocks with Baltimore City schools that are, they're saying no to charter schools.
Yeah.
So a mayor that could be in position, I know right now the mayor is trying to take control of the school board. But what do you think it would look like if we had a mayor that was a mayor that really put education and crime first? What do you think it would look like?
It's interesting.
Baltimore.
Let me just say this. I would love to see a mayor, a Democratic mayor, support charter schools. It really is a situation where it goes against conventional wisdom. It goes against the unions. It goes against a lot of what people, the teachers union and a lot of others who don't support charter schools. I'm a big component of charter schools. I'm a big proponent of school choice. I believe that in a city like Baltimore, I know too many grandmas, I know too many aunties and uncles who are raising their brothers and sisters and sons and daughters' children who really need to be able to choose the school that their children go to. And when you talk about Benjamin Banneker,
Yes.
Charter school there. When you talk about the Marnac School and you talk about other schools that are great schools that aren't the best when it comes to, they do have a few problems when it comes to special education, when it comes to some of the other things, but really are educating very difficult children and are doing a great job. We need those charter schools to be supported.
But here's the thing about it. I'm going to pick out something that you said, and I think you were very methodical in what you said on it. You said Democrats.
Yes.
Now, my problem in Baltimore City is that we are a one-party city.
Yes.
That's a problem to me. We will not see significant change in crime and education in the city until we're given options.
Well,
Until we force the political machine to say, hey, we're no longer just
then the
looking at
Republican
Democrats.
Party is going to have to become a very different party for that to be true, for us to have real options.
Well, we're talking about in Baltimore City. Now, we're not talking about your Dutch Rooters burgers, because or your Andy Harris's.
I agree.
Because Andy Harris is a racist. And I'll put this out there. Andy Harris is a racist. And I can tell you from personal experience that I don't particularly care for Andy Harris. But if that's what the Republican Party looks like in the state of Maryland, then we don't need that in Baltimore City. But that's not the Republican Party in Maryland that I know. I'm not a Republican.
I agree.
But that's not the one I know. The Republican Party looks like Boyd Rutherford and it looks like Larry Hogan to me. So if we can get some of that in Baltimore City, we need options.
And we
have none.
And we need charter schools.
Yeah, we do.
Really do
We do.
need some charter schools that think out of the box, educate our children, really give parents and caregivers choices. And I support that.
So how do we start that movement? How do we start that? Does it start with the politicians? Does it start with the school system? I mean, the people? How do we start that movement?
Let me say this, Calvin. I'm going to give you a quick answer then, because we're winding down now.
Okay.
I think what we're going from my perspective, we need a two-party system. And we need to start thinking out of the box when it comes to education in the city of Baltimore. We have schools in Montgomery County and Baltimore County. Baltimore County just they're currently looking at their new superintendent of schools. Unfortunately, we know what happened with Dallas Dance a couple of years ago. But they're looking at a new superintendent, but they're also looking at fiscal problems because their school system and Baltimore County grew so fast because they had a mandate that everyone from middle school to high school would all be learning off of tablets. Now they see that it's not fiscally responsible to be able to do that. But we in Baltimore City, let me finish first. So all of their seniors in Baltimore County over the next 5 years will be phasing in tablets, where all the students will be using tablets. In Baltimore City, we're still sharing textbooks, 20-year-old textbooks. That's a problem. And until we understand that that's a problem, until we get to the point where some of these parents, instead of just putting on an I voted sticker, take into account the real people that they're voting for, then we'll see substantial change and we'll see substantial support for charter schools. But until that happens, we're going to keep hearing the same rhetoric that we're hearing right now. So I implore all of you that are in the sound of my voice to really take it seriously when we're starting to look at some of these council members and when we're starting to look at some of these mayors. Take it seriously, folks, because that is the only way you're going to be able to change the Baltimore City school system.
We got to get out of here.
We got to get out of here, folks. Hey, thanks for calling in, Calvin. We'll hear from you next week. Hey, everybody. Yes. My name is Casey Jenkins.
And I'm Anthony McCarthy.
And thanks for watching Maryland 101. Good night.